I am Trisha Bennett. I live on the northeast coast of the United States, and I am always honored and inspired to have the opportunity to host our Shamans Directory live events. We invite you to visit our website at Shamans Directory to learn more and join our global community. By signing up for our newsletter, you will stay informed about upcoming events and other offerings from the greater global shamanic community. If you are social media inclined, you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Shamans Directory. So please note that while we don't take questions aloud during our events, we encourage you to share your comments and post your questions in the chat, and we will do our best to get to all of them during our time together. Also, our events usually run about 2 hours, but they are guided by spirit, and sometimes they're a little less, and sometimes they're a little more. So we invite you to stay as long as you can, and know that we also have the recording available for people if you're not able to stay for the entire session today. This being the season where festivals of light are celebrated around the world, in shamanic and earth-based traditions, we also celebrate the balance of light and dark, knowing that we cannot have one without the other, and that each holds invaluable life lessons for those who are willing to receive them. This month, we have two amazing medicine women joining us, one from each hemisphere, to explore the realms of the light and the dark with us. And today we will explore the darkness. Before we start, I'm just going to let you know a little bit about Rakel for those of you who don't know her yet. And I will do my best to pronounce these things in a good way. Rakel was born and raised in Itokortormit, a remote settlement in northeastern Greenland. When she was only 4 years old, she told her mother that she would become a shaman. Growing up, she often heard stories about her family's shamanic lineage and was deeply curious about what this heritage meant for their descendants. In 2012, she began her journey to truly understand how her ancestors lived and perceived the universe as an interconnected whole. She left modern society to immerse herself in nature and to learn directly from it, from Silap Apa, the other worlds, and the teachings they hold. In 2019, she received her healer name, Rakel, and was initiated into the ancient lineage as an Angakkuq shaman. Since then, she has dedicated herself to bridging the spirit world with the modern human experience, finding ways to apply ancient wisdom in today's world. Through these profound and timeless methods of healing, Rakel helps people connect with their souls, something that has long been hidden or forbidden in many ways. As she teaches, a soul that is whole is in balance with the world and in balance with itself. In addition to her shamanic work in Greenland, Rakel is internationally known through her participation as a leading voice in the multiple award-winning documentary film, The Eternal Song, by filmmakers Zaya and Maurizio Bonazzo of Science and Non-Duality. Welcome, Rakel.
Good day, Aviaya. Hi, everyone. My name is Rakel Sanímuinaq, and I'm really honored for joining today to talk about darkness. And I look really forward to diving deep with you guys. So yeah, I've been contemplating a lot on how to approach this, because these have been teachings that has been brought on to from my ancestral knowledge. And we, growing up, when I asked my mom questions about these topics that a child shouldn't ask about, she always ended our talk with, "Don't talk about it." And when I asked her, "Why can't I tell this to anyone?" she said, "It's dangerous." And then I asked, "Why is it dangerous? They don't understand." And I was like, "Why don't they understand?" She was like, "They just don't." 100 years ago, we had a lot of shamans in East Greenland, where I'm from. And today it's almost impossible to find anyone because we have learned to hid ourselves. We are in hiding in many ways. So that also meant that when I was called to walk this path, I didn't have any teachers. I didn't know how to approach. I couldn't control the connection. It seemed so sporadic how the ancestors came. It seemed so sporadic how the connection came by. So I was feeling like, well, who are they? What is this? What is the purpose of the spirit world when we are not allowed to connect with it? And it led me to a no man's land where I tried to do everything I was told to do by people living in civilization. I tried to do breath work. I tried to run. I tried to go to psychologists and figure out what is wrong with me. And I did that for 18 years, trying to do what was valid. This is how we approach our mental health. You go by the safe road, by the doctors, by the psychologists, by, yes, everything that it has been built up by civilization. This is what we call the help. This is what is available for us. This is what has been studied by Westerners as a way to solve your problems that you have in life. And every time I tried to do what the psychologist told me, what I was taught in psychiatry, I always felt a bit worse. And I was like, there's something very wrong with me. I am mentally ill. That has to be it. I cannot find a way to get better. So in the end, now we get to a heavy topic. I couldn't cope anymore. I wasn't able to live a sustainable life. I couldn't keep a job. I couldn't be a mom. I couldn't be a partner. I couldn't even get up in the morning. I couldn't go grocery shopping. I couldn't make food for myself. So I decided to end my life as I had done many times before since the age of 8. And I was serious every time, but something was always hopeful. But this time it seemed more grave. And when I actually managed to almost kill off my body, where I went to the spirit world and I got my spirit helper with me, my guide that was guiding me. And I woke up from being saved by the personnel from the psychiatric ward that I was in. I started to dream, and the dreams was that my late sister was sitting by me while I was laying and sleeping in the hospital. And she was writing instructions to the doctors on how to save me. And I woke up and I was looking for her. And so I was like, where are you, sister? My dead sister, where are you? And I was looking at how she was prescribing ways to treat me for the doctors. I was like, I am not alone. Someone is there with me. And that's the moment I was like, okay, something came back with me from the realm of death, and they are helping me. And this is someone I have trusted with my life. This is someone I have loved unconditionally. So I decided then, okay, because it's my sister, my closest kin, I'm going to trust the spirits. And I decided at that moment that I would leave everything I knew and go back to Itaqatamit, back to my mom, and I would plead with her, help me, teach me. You said no to me to become a shaman. But if I'm going to survive this life, you have to teach me now. And my mom was sitting there listening to me, and then she was like, okay. And that's the moment she and I started to go into trances at night when we were sleeping. Because she, like me, had had troubles all of her life because she wasn't allowed to do her shamanic work. And she had denied me as she was denied her shamanic lineage. It was very much around fear. It was very much around what is this? What is all of this about? And in the beginning, we had a very religious understanding of the spirit, like you have with God and Jesus, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to apply that knowledge to working with spirit is very different, because you as the shaman is a canal, the channel to connecting and to give. What I understood back then was that it was burning away everything I knew in those trances, and the way that everything moved through me in the big awakening. When I was walking, birds was following me, like right in front of me, leading my way. I was in between spaces. And at the same time, I had a severe soul loss. I was still half a human. And what they taught me was, in order to heal, you have to meet the deepest, darkest parts of yourself. And the first emotion I met in my awakening was my anger. It came to me, and I was thinking about this awakening and what my role was, and the ancestors showed me this anger that could kill. I was so caught up in this anger that I was happy I was on my own in this in nature, in Itakatami. And then as I was walking home, shaken by what had come to me, I came home to my mom, and that's when we started to speak about all of this that we were not allowed to speak about. And I asked her, why did I feel this anger? And why did it overcome me? Why did I lose to anger? And then she said, they are showing you that you have to heal your anger. And I was like, well, how do I do that? I'm ready to do whatever they want me to. And then I was like in blind working through, like, okay, I have something that I cannot control within me, in my soul. I have an anger that can completely overcome me and control me. And I went to my sister's house, and in her house, someone had died. The moment I stepped into her house, this person who had died in the house came to me and started to crawl on to me. And she was pulling herself down to my belly button and entered my body. At that time, I didn't know what had happened to her, and my understanding was that she had committed suicide. But years and years and years later, understanding who she was a woman who had been killed by her partner because she couldn't bear him children. And I was a mother who had no room for my kids. She had died not living the life she wanted. And I had have a soul that didn't have the strength to live. So she and I became one. She is going to fulfill her wishes and dreams, and I am going to get enough strength to finish my task. So she was in front while giving birth. She was the one marrying my husband, those things that I didn't have as Aviaya, no strength to fulfill. I didn't want that, but she wants that. So suddenly we were two halves of a whole that could step in for one another. And the next time, as time went, because after she entered my body, I didn't have any anger. Her gratitude for having entered my body and fulfilling her life instead of being a restless soul made it possible to find the balance within the anger. And then as time went by, the next emotion came. It has been jealousy, it has been fear, it has been envy, it has been greed. I call it the deadly sins, that you have to meet every deadly sin and figure out, how do I overcome the deepest, darkest parts of me in order to become whole? We are in a world where we are very much ashamed of some of this stuff we are working through. You cannot be jealous, you cannot be envious, and all that. They are deadly sins. That's something we hide from the world. It's in the darkness. But here in the shamanic work and the necromancy that my ancestors actually are. This is necromancy, like technically, because you are going to step in on behalf of humans in their situations. You have to overcome every dark part of yourself so that you are the clean canal to the spirits. After I had learned and worked on how to overcome my parts of me, one of them was the megalonomia, where I was like, I'm going to be a big shaman. And my mom, who taught me that, well, this isn't something that you should go walk around and say to anyone, this is you are learning. You have to learn what this message is so that you can work with it towards understanding how our ancestors worked. After I overcame that part of me and I was eaten by my first spirit animal, where I died, the first ego death, before becoming megalonomaniac. A shaman is working with the which is the false truth. You have to meet evil directly, head on, again and again and again, not just outside, like in the biblical term, like the devil, but inside yourself. You have to look into the deepest darkness and the deepest sorrows until you have reached the bottom of the darkness so deep in your subconsciousness. You have to make the darkness your home, because as a shaman, that's where your work lies within people. You have to know what you go into, even before touching any humans as a shaman. That has to do with what we carry from our ancestors. We have a naturally karmic cycle from generation to generation. and you have to clean up the life threads. No knots, nothing in the way of your shamanic work. If I go into a trance and I haven't healed and I have something karmic coming my way and I enter another human's soul sphere with my karmic garbage, they will be hit by your karmic. You will interweave your own destiny with theirs. That's why I always tell warnings to my students. Don't rush. Start with yourselves. If you can wait at least 5 years, even better 10 years before starting to work with humans, that is not because I want you to have a long teaching. It's purely safety. When you work in shamanic work, you are working with human destiny directly head on. And you can affect people's destiny. So in order for you to gain the true experience to do that, you have to destroy everything you think you are and to completely become the tool of the ancestors of Sila and the spirits. You have to give yourself completely, ceremony by ceremony, give a part of you to them and ask them to enter until you have completely switched places so that you are 100% a tool for them. You are nothing. That's what it means. You have to become nothing in order to gain all the universe's forces. Have no will, have no desire, or have anything that can interfere with the work of destiny. One of the things that has made this work difficult and what makes this so difficult to give the knowledge is one thing my mom has always said to me: they don't understand. And that's part of why it's easier to stay silent also today, is that we have ego behind ego of our understanding of spirit world. To shed ego in the books about Inuit culture, the moment the shaman is eaten by the polar bear, that's the moment he becomes a shaman. That's the understanding. But the truth is that you have to get eaten thousands of times. It's not eating all of your ego. It's eating a little part of your understanding. And that's why we give away a little part of us as time goes, until you get to the point where you are merged with spirit. You are one with your ancestors. They step into you and they tug. Your ego is one with you. Its wings is your wings. Its eyes is your eyes. You only have to think and they understand. And that part is what I see is a problem in the Western understanding, that the moment we have connection with the spirit world, it is so profound that we immediately think, wow, I am special. I have great abilities. But in reality, you are meeting the most natural part of our soul. That is how we are born. That is how it is to be one with nature and the spirits. It is part of us. So what I want to say to you, don't be busy. If you want to do true quality work, take those years, isolate yourself in periods of time, go to nature, meet those sides of you that you don't know how to work with and say, okay, spirits, I have this part of me within me that I do not know how to cope. I will give it to you. I will remove all illusion I have about me, the world, everything. And I will give this to you, my envy. How do I work with this? Teach me. Because we are only humans and we can ask for help. A shaman isn't a special person. It's just a person who has learned how to ask for help, also on behalf of others. That is our task. And this learning, this teaching, is to go full circle, that the moment you have spent those 10, 11 years of learning, what they will bring you back to is exactly the humanness. We are only humans. We are only meant to ask for help. Everything else is our own understanding or lack of understanding. We are here to learn, all of us. We are all on the same plane. Before I was going to make this talk, I was shown an image we have by this shore here in Nuuk, where those who just doesn't have a toilet that can flush, they collect the from the septic tank and they throw it in the water. And my ravens was holding me down into looking down and in the water, and they said, "You have to tell this." My work as a shaman is to jump into the garbage from human waste and not be affected by the waste, to transform everything that can be manure, to be in there without becoming manure myself, and to learn how to turn it into nurture. This isn't some big, beautiful work. This is something you go into on behalf of humans who are suffering. And that is not a job you actually want to do when you're actually in it. Because you, as a soul, is the one, as a human, who has to step into those situations again and again and again and not be affected by it. And we will be affected by it if we do not work with all those deadly sins that we carry, all of us carry. And when you have overcome those parts, it's not that they disappear. You have to constantly check yourself. Am I doing right by me, my fellow humans, ancestors, everything? And that's something we all have to constantly do. Am I living right in this life? Am I following the destiny I'm born into? Besides that, the soul, we live in a civilization that has created rules and laws about just. And at the same time, we live with so many different understanding of spirit world, religion, and how to treat one another. And oftentimes, I meet the understanding of the shamanic work as someone living in caves. We are not living there anymore. We are living houses. We live, we can turn on the lights. We drive cars. We take the plane. But at the same time, the soul is still living by the old rules. And what we are suffering from many times in this today's society is that we don't listen to that soul. the very core being of who we are. And that is part of the teachings here, that we have to honor this as well as yours. There are a lot of rules around our soul and our karmic ways and our connection to the spirits. But we are in a place that has been, where this knowledge has been eradicated, and we are fumbling for understanding. And that is part of also that, even though we think that we are doing right, we can actually go against our own selves in order to adapt to the world, and to turn that in and say, okay, everything is going back bad for me. I'm trying to do all the right things. How can I make it better for me? How do I listen? How do I do right? How do I get well? And that's the part where there is a lot of noise in the human world. We are so many humans. And even though I feel that I am on top of my life and how I treat people and myself, the moment I step into a city of many people, it doesn't even take 5 minutes. I cannot be there. All of these noises that just goes completely within me. And I'm like, oh, so stressed out. I'm claustrophobic. And I'm like, I feel lucky that I sit here in Nuuk, where the nature is so strongly present. I cannot imagine how it is for some of you living in the big cities. How do I actually find myself? And one of the things that we advise against is to not create a shield, don't create a wall. But that's what I do in civilization when there are a lot of people, because I cannot cope with everything that's going on, noises. But as I go to these big cities, I am learning how to not take in everything that comes my way like a filter. Um, I have um, I have different anua, which is not a medallion, but I bind spirits to objects, like making them one and carry them on me. Sometimes I even create anua, like take my spirit. In the beginning, I just created a knot, like binding around my belly. Like, now you stay here and keep my strength for me. But then I was walking in the middle of Copenhagen one summer day, and there were so many people, a huge crowd. And then I started to notice the trees, the flowers, the birds. And I was like, we are saying that civilization has no life. But that doesn't change that these purple flowers are still speaking, even though they are in a box. The roots of the trees, where they meet the ground, is still a portal down to the soul below. The birds are still following you on the rooftops. And I realize that the pavement, yes, it has paved through the nature, but you don't have to dig deep in order to go back and reach Mother Earth as she was thought for millions of years. That we have to look deeper in order to actually be in a place where spirits have been scared away by human hand, human touch. So I understood that everything we are, that civilization is human seeking answers within one another, because the roots have been severed. But if you are willing to sit there looking at all the traffic, seeing people walking by, dogs barking and children laughing, bicycles and people just walking by. Nobody sees you because you're just one in the ocean. The trees are still still. The lake is still filled with life. We are all still the same humans as 1,000 years ago. We are still here. Our hearts are still beating. We are still looking through our eyes and listening through our ears. When you pull yourself from the busy life that I once loved the very most, we still have this. It's beating through everything. And that's what I find so profound in this, all of this, that the world is a disturbance because we look out all the time, while this is still present as the sun shining. I remember starting to go out in nature after having been in civilization for 12 years. I went back to Greenland, and as a young girl, I used to run a lot. I took my snowshoes and just went to nature. And it's polar bear land. So after all these years, I came back and I put on my shoes and I ran into nature again. And what I experienced was, I'm afraid of nature. I'm afraid of that polar bear. I'm afraid to get hurt. And that's the thing, that you have to meet insecurity and things that you cannot foresee when you go into nature. You have to get to learn, get to know nature from very scratch when you start this work. Because nature is the very teacher of finding calm. There is this old story about the White Dawn with James Houston that writes about the first encounter with the white man. Here in the Arctic, I don't remember where, but he spoke about these men whose ship was lost at sea, and they walked in and met these Inuit people living the old way, and how it disrupted the symbiotic way of life. One thing is that the way Inuit adapted to nature is that you conform to how nature is shaped. But these white men, they made a path from the tent to the sea. It was a good hunting ground that they put themselves in. You know, you follow the animals because they are the ones feeding you. But they made this path with rocks down to the sea. And until today, these animals has disappeared from that area. That nature also have a presence, that we do not disturb nature. We let nature be. At the same time, when my mom came from Itaqatamit as a 13-year-old girl in the 60s, when she was sitting in the bus on her way to school, she was looking at hedges. And she was looking at these squares and she was like mind blown. Wow, how do they make them grow square? She couldn't understand that humans could change nature. You always adapt to the great feeder, not just in our bodies, but also soul, because nature looks back at you. And the way we are collecting rocks and crystals and collecting plants, and we are so many humans, I also see it as a way of having a need to have something to sustain us. And at the same time, this rock that you collect, yes, it might be yours for 50 years, but when you die, someone else might find it in 1,000 years and bring it home. Maybe someone has already owned it in their lives. That what we are collecting in nature, especially rocks and stuff like that, they are ancient. And we have to respect them. What can they teach us? One of the things that I've seen in rocks is how they are their pure form. We're in a lifetime, this human cycle that we are in, where we are fast at understanding what we need to do in order to gain what we want or need, and also conforming to one another. And that way it can be difficult to become the strength that you have here when you start to listen to the soul and heart that you have, where you don't conform and become strong. One of the things I meet a lot is that people mirror their own shortcomings, where you become the mirror reflecting their wounds, that people can take your being as a provocation. And that's one of the things that has been difficult, that we are all living in a world where this inner life is projected onto the world, where the world is a mirror, and at the same time being a mirror for one another. That is where humanness and the spirit work meet, that we have tasks in this world that is not only to go into the difficulties of humans, but at the same time meeting difficulties head on as a human being, where you get hurt. And we are all doing that throughout life, meeting each other. Here in Inuit realm, Inuit territory, many Inuit has difficulties with strength. We tell each other, like my mom told me, don't speak about the difficult topics about our culture. Don't speak about that and that. That's a secret. This summer, I traveled to Mongolia, who has also been through where they took away the shamans, and there were only 10 shamans left in the 90s, and now there are 10,000. And what I found profound, and which was like, so it was like something clicked in me, that Inuit are still fearing strength in many ways, because it's unsafe. It has been unsafe because of colonization. And Mongolia, who were colonized 30 years ago, has overcome that suppression and are looking up to the strong, the man and the woman in their full strength, and people are respecting that. And how do we as a society learn to cope with one another's strength? I have met envy a lot of time doing this work, and also mirroring like projections again and again and again. And you can keep this in the connection to the higher beings and the guardians of how we treat one another and have a good term with them. But the human understanding, how we are in a place where we are moving forward, not yes, it can feel like as an individual, but we are all moving towards that. That the purpose of this isn't to become a voice that I want people to listen to. I want to give it all away. This is not something that belongs to a human or a species of human or race or territory. This is universal. We as a humankind needs to learn strength from beginning. There is a lot of misconception around this, that this dark forces that these people are in is dangerous. While in reality, we're working in the roots of humans, while others are working with the tree trunk and some in the leaves. Someone has to work with their depth, and that's some of the shamans that do. We are all different kinds of shamans, all different kinds of humans, which is why all of this that is happening, the projections and all that, it's something that needs to get out in the open and say, what I'm hiding needs to get out in order to heal. We have to give it to the spirits and let them help us. We are only humans. And sometimes, as humans, we can also be tools for something not good when we don't overcome our own darkness. And in order to be impenetrable for envy, for all of that, we cannot compare. When you have a shaman, the shaman's work is not to become strong and powerful. The shaman's work is to give it all away, all the abilities. All I can do is already yours. That way, the love that we have, this universal love, is the one that needs to enter. That when you meet a person who is completely broken down and has hurt a lot of people and in many ways a lost cause, that's the one you will love the most, because they need more than anyone else. To not judge anyone for where they are in the process of consciousness and healing is way more important than you think. Just like you not judging yourself for having these emotions that you have. It is something that has been buried for generations. It has been forbidden to have. And that is why I am hoping that we as a humankind can open these parts of ourselves and say, help me. Not on our knees, not as a broken soul, but with the very hope and light that wants to live. Today's society, us, we are the result of that. And in order for us to get forward is to do what's the very forbidden part, which is to go back and meet you as you are, no illusions, the truth. We have this saying that we all know truth will set you free, and that is a truth. We don't owe anything to anyone besides meeting you. The moment you start to heal, the moment your relations will start to heal. There is a beauty in that. And that is also why we say that a person in healing is sacred. It is sacred work. It is a soul connecting, the love entering like a rebirth. Yes. I promised myself that I will speak for an hour. And if there is a lot of questions, I want to have time to answer those. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let me see. It says, thank you for the deep dive. I'd like to ask, when you talked about the need to be without will and desire, are you referring to the state of the hollow bone?
Yes, definitely. This part where Inuits say you are nothing is to be the hollow bone. Yes.
Someone else said that she worked with someone who called themselves a shaman, and she feels as if they may have either taken something or put something into her that doesn't belong to her. If this happens, do you have a suggestion for how to address that?
Yes. The thing is, the reason it takes so long to learn is also to have your spirit team completely in check. Spirits can lie, and spirits can say they are a helper without being a helper and can do harm. And if you have someone calling themselves a shaman, but at the same time being led by something that isn't true, um, some what I see is like this. It's sitting here in this part of the body. What I usually do when this happens is that I use mugwort, and then I have a spirit helper that loves to eat these toxins that has entered. What I like to call, you know, when you give access to your very core being and trusting a shaman that isn't a shaman, or is a shaman but hasn't finished the teachings, um, that when you give access, this garbage can also enter without them knowing, they're not aware, which also needs a complete saline. You have to take it out of your system because it's our soul is like an engine, and in order for our souls to move better is to have this free passage. So what I see is you need to get that out of your soul, your body, and call yourself home because it has there isn't room for your pure soul. Yeah,
Mm.
and it can like make its way deeper, and create soul loss like on a high level in the end.
Thank you. Another person says, I was brought to tears many times. Thank you for your words and your moving and deep wisdom. Someone said this was a beautiful journey, rivers of tears moving, uh, very rich and fertile. Can you please say something about the spider as a spirit, as a power animal? Is there a way to work with the spider when working in difficult situations?
The spider, the weaver. Yeah, I've one of the things that I saw in a trance drum journey was that what the modern shamans do is like the shamans shed the spider hem, And the shamans today is putting on the spider suit that they had and start to weave between the distances where humans can walk towards enlightenment together, that we are picking up the work from the shamans before and weaving destiny between spirits and humans. That's what I know. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Um, let's see. It says, would you say that in order to heal, overcoming our shadows includes holding those places with love? You did say that. And how do we embrace our wounds in order to heal? Do you have any suggestion about that?
Well, depending on if you're in a shamanic path or a human path, um, one of the things as an I I work a lot with ancestors and ancestral wounds, and they are the ones stepping in because many of the wounds we carry is to be let down by a fellow human. It can be family member, friend, or partner, and the ancestors can step in and give you the love you need in order to be sustainable as a soul. Um, that sometimes it's like fueling, like giving love as a fuel for this machine to have a way forward. So what I did when I started to heal myself was actually to take one wound at a time and go into a trance where the first one I met was my grandmother because I had this huge pain here and it just came and went and it was so deep, this pain, that I was pulling my hair and biting myself. I couldn't cope. um, and she showed me that I hadn't spoken about what happened to me. This one, don't speak about it. Like my mom and grandmother and great grandmother, we were silenced. We are not allowed to address ourselves as free souls. And there were birds eating off the what had become infected, an infected wound. And the moment the birds had eaten away all the infection, um, it was like a meditative state that I came in where the wound closed and learned it looked like a scar instead, and I haven't felt any pain anymore. And that's when I do, because I'm doing the work. What I do is I use a lot of plants in my work. For pain, I use Kayasat Labrador tea, but you might want to speak to an Inuk about that, getting Labrador tea. Um, that you find, you ask spirits and say, well, I have this pain. How do I do? Sometimes meditation, if you don't do trances, meditative states are good because when you sit with it and give the wound time, because I can feel your pain, um, and ask for spirit to enter and help you, it's like when we have closed off especially our voice and haven't spoken about it, it has stopped in our system. And sometimes it's enough to sit with the emotions for it to get room to move on. And that's what I like about meditation before I did this, which was a very good tool. And I also do medicine work where I take this pain that I have and I just go for a walk with this pain in front of me and let nature take care of it. Sometimes I dip in the ocean. It's very different from wound to wound. Yes.
Thank you. We have so many questions here. This is a great one. For a year now, I have been in a place of peace and wholeness. Now what? I feel that there's some service work for me to do in the world, and I'm wondering how I can open myself up to receiving guidance as to what my spirit work is.
You know, what I usually see is sometimes our service is to just be present with our peace, with our human beings, that we don't necessarily have to do something besides being, because in the civilized world, we are always being, like trying to be. And what I see most among humans is this loneliness, where when you are present with them eye to eye, that this is a need a lot of humans have, to just be human with humans. I don't know if you will feel content with that answer, but I feel that that is one of the things that are most sought after, room to be human.
That's a beautiful answer. And it also really aligns with the idea of things in our world, allowing things to take time and not feeling like you also have to know
Mm.
immediately, to just
Yeah.
be. Yeah, that's really lovely. Um, Another question. Are there Inuit shamans who work only with nature and elements and not people?
You know, I cannot speak on behalf of other shamans. Um, I would say there are not two shamans that are alike. So I wouldn't say they don't exist, but I cannot say they exist. I would say 99% of my work isn't with humans. It's being, keeping a good relation and nurturing the spirits around me and be with nature. And then, even though I work with this daily, but the work behind the shaman is not humans, it's spirits.
Yeah. Could you speak about the polar bear in
Uh,
Inuit tradition?
yeah, I definitely can. Um, Working with the polar bear, uh, one of the things, there are a lot of shamans working with polar bear, and one of the things that go again and again and again is the loneliness, because the polar bear is living in the vast Iceland, the ice, the sea, where there's no polar bear around. And having the polar bear as a helper is one of the things that no matter how many people you're together with, you're alone. That um, immigotum suliat, a work on its own. And at the same time, the polar bear is also like one who knows how to survive on its own, not needing anyone to thrive, and also being like the fire, that when the polar bear eats you, the ego death is also to help you with the transformation like fire. And at the same time, having a polar bear as a helper is also making you be very careful of your words, because the polar bear is someone who acts right away. So the moment you think, oh, this is an annoying person, as an example, um, it will react immediately. So the polar bear is also a big responsibility. Speak no evil. Don't be mad. You don't have the luxury to have the anger or impatience, because the polar bear will react on it right away.
Oh, there's some really big questions in here. How can we find a way to sit with our darkness?
Yes. One of the things, um, you know, what I I learned to do is to be very secluded, like on my own in nature, where there is no humans. And what I do is I try to empty myself, like becoming this nothingness by breath. Sila is also very much about breath work, that you take out everything that doesn't belong in your body so that you do not affect the world with what you carry, and empty, take it out and let the wind enter. Let the sila, the consciousness, enter you so that you become silent. One of the things in Inuit culture is that what sila does, what the consciousness does, is always to seek balance. When the wind is raging, it's sila seeking balance, and when there is no wind, sila is listening. And one of the things that we need to do way more is to just lay on the ground, lay in nature, in the snow, by the water, empty, and just listen. And to just listen is also to be aware of what's in you. To meet that part, it can be easy in the daily life to just, oh yeah, I will remember that later. But to actually say, okay, this is a message, to give yourself time to listen. The tiniest little movement that you can become aware of, and to bring our blind sides conscious about that, to bring what we don't see to light. That's the purpose of being in the darkness. We are filled with something that we are not aware of, and that's why we ask spirit for help. They see us as we are, and they love us as we are. And to have them as a helper to say, okay, this is something you have to learn for you to stay in place that's healthy for you.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were speaking, and you mentioned it briefly about we need the darkness to experience the light.
Mm.
And I think the darkness can be scary for some people who aren't familiar with that place,
Mm.
to really look inside and see what's there. And I know I'm even guilty sometimes of not wanting to know,
Mm.
like, I don't think I really want to know that because I'm going to get more instructions.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's freedom, really. It can be courageous at first, and then the more you get used to going into the dark and finding out what's there and uncovering it and looking at it, the more your heart opens and the more available you are to life. And I know you've said that before, and I love that. Um, there's a, how are you doing energy wise in terms of answering questions? Are you still,
Oh
are
yeah,
you
yeah.
still,
I think that one
okay?
more. So yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. There's another big one here. And it says, in terms of the Western world and indigenous cultures, where have we gone so wrong in our ability to be with one another and heal?
You know, one of the things that I've been contemplating a lot, and I say it in the Eternal Song, that colonize people. That these crusades that has been waving through Europe and brought to the US and all around the world, and how we were keeping each other in check and burning away the ancient knowledge, and how we were actually having a system of balance with the soul, our cultures that were before, that they were suddenly eradicated and made lesser, something that is not really something we want. It's sometimes even ridiculous to people. And then we are given rules that has been put on us by others, that has become a weapon, a system of capitalism and all that, um, where we create a synthetic world with hierarchy and ways of, you have to do this in order to have a life, you have to do that in order to be acknowledged, you have to be that in order to, where we put in a system that comes from the mind instead of here. That's how I see it.
Thank you. Mhm. Yes, it's time to work on that healing. I agree. Let's see. Curious to hear more about these different paths, the working with plants.
Well, what I referred to with being the root, working in the darkness, is because you are so isolated, like we spoke about with the polar bear, that you are on your own. And one of the things I suffered from for a long time was to feel completely alone in the world and having very few understanding you, and those understanding you were in other countries. And I felt like, well, what am I in the world? And I asked the spirits, and they showed me, well, you are a part of everything. You're just the roots. And
Mm,
people were more like the leaves being together, like in groups. And, we all have different, we are all part of the greater good. And we all have our tasks and jobs towards one another, and humanness and nature and all that. So that's what I meant. But working with the plants, the way, because I have a Danish father, so I have Nordic roots, and and I have been working a little with the Nordic traditions since May of this year. And one of the things that came very fast was that the knowledge of our ancestors, according to the Sadic tradition, is that the knowledge of the ancestors is with the plants, because humans were once trees in the Nordic tradition, that we are in close relation with nature, and the knowledge of our ancestors we can connect to through the roots of the plants. So that's something I'm going to work more with over the coming years, because the work with Inuit is only half of my teachings, and now the second part is the Nordic. Mm.
I love the idea that we each come from a different part of the tree. Some of us are the roots, some of us are the trunk, some of us are the leaves. That's a beautiful way to think about who we are and delivering our gifts. This is a beautiful message here. I have so much in my heart for you. I am an Inuk woman from the Western Arctic and have had curiosity about our medicine since I was little. But I also knew inside that it wasn't safe to talk about many things. My father attended residential school, and I didn't receive teachings.
I definitely do, but I also know other Inuit working with Inuit and having a lot of knowledge. One of them is Hannah Siksik, our Sartuk. She's on Instagram, and because when you come from, um, I like to connect people with people closer to one another, and she's very active teaching the Inuit ways and laws that we have. It's like it's still in between. So Hannah Siksik, I will advise for you to connect with her. And she also worked with Angakkuq and teachings. So
Could you spell her name in the
yes,
chat for us, just so
definitely
that that woman has her correct spelling? And anyone else who might be listening who would like that contact information.
lineage, and she works with Inuit. also we work close together, helping one another. It's difficult to find someone who is not bringing their wounds into the work of power. So it's one you can trust for you to step into your power without wanting to take, yeah, without envy and all that stuff can occur.
Mm, thank you. Um, I think this next one is probably how a lot of people are feeling right now. It says, I keep trying and I can't seem to shift from feeling irritable and on the edge most of the time.
Yes, sometimes when we carry a lot of energy that is not our own, and to let go of that energy can be difficult because it seems like, well, I am annoyed and I'm on the edge, but in reality, it's the energy that needs to shift. And that's where one of the things I do is yeah, again, plants. Sometimes it's which is juniper. I really like juniper. I use it every day, where I cleanse off the energies around me and take it in and cleanse off, because very often we affect one another with energies that is not our own, which I have learned creates irritability. And then sometimes I even just take my hands down on earth and say, Earth, take this, because I cannot, it's not mine. Yeah, I burn the plant. Sometimes when I am very annoyed or don't really have room for preparation, it happens sadly. I also make a tea to make it like, please cleanse me off. I'm so, um, everyday work. When you work a lot with this, you can also take the easy route and just drink it. Yeah.
That's great. I heard it's not Inuit tradition, but I heard a beautiful thing that the sound of crackling cedar is the only sound that spirit can hear when you
Yeah.
burn cedar. And I loved that because I also love cedar myself. It's one of my favorites. And I love the sound of it crackling. It does feel like it's reaching somewhere when it's crackling.
Beautiful.
How do you come to, it says, how do you come to something about how do you come to tattoo to become a protective amulet? So I think, is there something about your tattoos that are protective?
Yeah, all of them are. Um, our tattoos is ceremonial tattoos, and these are made by Ikimatsukurita. Um, and one of the things that we use is sod, because one of the stories is that when the Malina and Aninga, the sun and the moon, brother and sister, the ways he exposed her brother, the sun, exposed the moon, her brother, was by putting soot on his arm to understand who was sleeping with her at night. And it's a talk about a taboo that you cannot have relations with your close family members. So when she understood that he was the one, she took a log of fire and ran, and so did he, ran after her, and now they are in the skies while the moon is chasing the sun. And this part of with working with soot is that it is a protecting against spirits, and also that what is not mine in my body and my soul can get out of my body. So everything is done in connection with with the nature, spirits, and ancestors. So it's our heritage from our ancestors, and part of a system of patterns that tells spirits also who we are.
Thank you. There's so many more questions in here. Um, are there any spirit animals or spirits that are more available to us in the
Yes.
dark?
Normally, Angakkuq was done in the dark. You didn't do spirit work in the summer because the spirits comes in the dark. Um, and that's also part of what the Christians said, that these wicked shamans only work in the darkness and try to demonize the work. Um, but there are a lot, the spirit animals are found in the Sobolo, which is in the darkness. And what what I like about this knowledge is that yes, we can pray and be in the light. We all know the light. That's where we live. But the healing is in the darkness, in the subconsciousness. Everything you don't want to see, that we try to avoid, that's the good stuff. That's what will help you.
I love that. That's the good stuff. Yeah. Um, let's see. Oh, another good question was, let's see if I can find it. Oh, someone asked that she feels drawn to ancestors from other cultures. She's wondering why she doesn't have, why she's drawn to ancestors from other cultures and if that's okay.
Perfectly fine. When I first started this work, I was expecting my helpers to be from Inuit lands, and suddenly meeting a snake from South Africa and meeting a snake from northern India and meeting a snake from Mongolia. And I was like, what is all of this about? We have no snakes in Greenland. Is this even true? Like, what's wrong with me? And all that. And then I was like, well, there must be something I don't know. So after some years, I took a DNA test, and it turned out that I have blood from America, from India, and Inuit are descendant of Mongolian. So even though you might have no blood from those ancestors, you can have had ancestors in a former life. So please take the knowledge you can. It will lead you home. And humans are the only ones having problems with how humans work with spirit. Spirit doesn't.
Hmm. Wow, that is fantastic. And that really, um, there's, this is a whole nother conversation, but the idea of appropriation and so many people feeling afraid to embrace other traditions.
Mm. Well, of course, there is a big taboo around um, acknowledgement for
Absolutely.
the traditions that there is. I would never teach anyone other people's traditions. I would never take money for other people's traditions. If I do, I will lose my power. It is not mine to give away, but I can learn from those who has this knowledge in order to implement it, to learn how to work with my own spirit. And when I have my own spirit, let those spirits work through you. That's the thing, that's the difference.
Very well said. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, this woman says, I have been weaving cello sound with my shamanic practice. Can you speak about the drum and vibration in your practice?
Yes. My grandfather was a drummer, the qilad, and he called it an eye, a way to see into the spirit world. One of the things our qilad is to tune into the breath of Sila, so that we can listen and see Sila and enter that, and let that enter our realm. I'm not only working with the qilad, I also have a drum made. And that drum is for me more the uterus, and that's because I'm a female shaman. That for me it's the uterus, but I cannot talk about how other works with drums. Like I said, all shamans are different and all traditions are different. The Inuit is the isik and a key to the spirits. For me, the way I see it is as a uterus opening to the spirit world, and by that helping us to connect, either go to the spirit world or let something enter from the spirit world.
Thank you. Wow. Well, I think we have come to the end of our questions. I have a lot of people saying this was beautiful, um, and thanking you so much for your generosity and your heart. I will wait just a minute and see if anyone else has anything to ask. Okay. Um, how do you know if you're being called to the shamanic path versus a call to heal your bloodline?
If you get ill, if you have more pain than you can cope, if you are going to die if you don't become a shaman, then it's a calling. It has become so misunderstood to do shamanic work today that it is something that we are interested in and take, the light sparkles that can be created in the light and give this experience of connection, which is fine on its own. It's good to have ceremonies and have these good feelings, but we are applying the capitalistic parts of it and taking away the person that has to shine the light while you go through your deepest, darkest nightmare. So, um, if you start the shamanic path, there is no guarantee that you can overcome the deepest, darkest parts of you. And if you can't, then you will die. You put your life on the line for other people. Every session is put your soul in the place of the person. That is not something anyone would do freely. So, and you are not one who wants to be like the polar bear on your own, no matter what happens in your life. It is not something you want to. It's something you are called to. You don't have a choice. We are all responsible. Everyone born human are all responsible for our ancestors and descendants through how we act in this life. That's not something you can get out of. You are born into that responsibility. To protect your descendants, you treat each other well. the karmic life of everything. Action becomes reaction. So what you can do the best is to live right by you. And even when you, as a shaman, are in a spiritual attack where you are called to do harm because there are entities that can kill and harm other people, and you have to meet them and not harm them even. You have to become so strong that nobody would even know that you are in that place. During the shamanic shaping and deepening teaching, the path, you will meet evil itself, and every meeting, evil will take something away from you. You change every time it comes until you are ready to overcome and win that battle. So that when you meet evil itself on behalf of other people, you won't be affected.
I'm just giving a moment for that to sink in. Yeah.
That's why the shaman has to make the darkness home, so that you become impenetrable for what harms and still harm no one. The true path, the medicine to even people nobody would have any sympathy for. You will have to step in and put your life on the line for them.
Well, I just see endless amounts of gratitude. Thank you for this profound teaching. Many blessings. Mhm. Thank you for keeping the work alive and sharing yourself and your knowledge. Beautiful conversation. First time here. Thank you so much. Deeply grateful for your existence. Thank you so much for your teaching, sharings, and guidance. Mhm.
You should thank them. That's where it belongs.
Mhm.
One of the things having to step in between the worlds, one of the things I'm most grateful for working with them is that they make it possible for us to just let go and be humans. That's the most important part of life. You be you. We have a system where we can ask for help. We have our ceremonies, we have our shamans. The rest of humanity, just be humans. That's your most important task. Live your life as you are, like the sun shining no matter what weather there is and how many complaints of the rain. The sun still shines. That's what the system is for.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a lot, I know. It's a lot. Um, I'm he. I am nothing in this. This is something that has existed since the dawn of time. It doesn't belong to anyone. We are here to give it all away. That's the task. And the reason I give it freely is that we are in a world where so many who are called to this don't know how.
Mhm.
And that is why I'm doing this. It's not about me. It's not about anything else than give back what was taken from us as a humanity.
Hmm. I think it's so amazing that for most of your early life, you didn't want to be alive. And that it wasn't until you accepted this part of yourself that you really started living. And it's the most difficult work a person can do is is what you have done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things that this, like not having a teacher, um, has been to be tired of life already from early childhood, like being aware of every second, being remembering your birth, remembering every moment in your life, and not having the shaman to teach you how, to be this presence of consciousness all the time. So those are the ones that I want to give it to.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank all the spirit helpers and thank all of the ancestors and from all across the world that have been here with us today and that have guided Raquel in her life to bring her all the way here to us today. Yeah. And thank you all for being here and for bringing your beautiful spirits to this gathering, for holding the space for this event to happen today. And I wonder, Raquel, before you go, is there anything you want to share about your practice or how you are available to people? I know that you're quite busy, so I'm not sure what your offerings are these days.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about having a page on the shaman's directory,
Yeah,
and through that you can book in the future. But at the same time, it's like if you are in apprenticeship already, what I will do is just to tell you to listen to yourself.
yeah, yeah. So you can
um,
take that instruction here and now, just take it. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Before we close, I just want to say that we had decided to talk about the light and the dark this month. And I was telling Raquel before we started that we have a woman coming next Sunday from the Southern Hemisphere. And I asked her what she wanted to talk about. And she said, I want to talk about shining our light into the new year. And then I talked to Raquel and I said, what would you like to talk about? And she said, I'd like to talk about making the darkness your home. And it was this perfect balance that just came to us without asking. So you're all welcome to join us next Sunday for shining our light into the new year. So I just want to thank you so much, Raquel. You're such a beautiful spirit. I'm so honored to be getting to know you a little bit. And let's see if there's anything else I want to say here. Just to thank everyone for coming today and being a part of our community. And we wish you all love and many blessings in the time ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Thank
so
Shannon.
much.
you.
It
Thank
was lovely.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Buena.
you.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Dankeschön.
Buena. Thank you.
Buyana. Thank you. Oh, no way.
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful.
Hope to see you again soon. Many blessings.